lots of people think that we can just meditate and without the Sila, we can't. And it's remind me of one of the suttas. Once that Ananda, he went up to the Buddha. He asked the Buddha, he said, what, Lord, is the benefit of the virtuous way of conduct, and what's the reward? And the Buddha answered, the benefit and the reward of virtuous way of conduct is non-remorse. And Ananda continued to ask, what is the benefit and the rewards of non-remorse? The Buddha answered, gladness. Ananda went on and asked, what is the benefit and reward of gladness? Ananda answered, joy. And Ananda continued to ask, what is the benefit and reward of joy? And the Buddha answered, serenity. And Ananda continued to ask, what is the benefit and reward of serenity? The Buddha answered, is happiness. And Ananda continued to ask, what is the reward of this happiness? The reward and benefit of this happiness. And the Buddha answered, is stillness. Ananda continued to ask, what is the benefit and reward of this stillness? And the Buddha answered, is the knowledge and visions of seeding Assyria. And Ananda continued to ask, what is the benefit and reward of this knowledge and visions seeding Assyria? And the Buddha answered, is dispassion and revulsions. And Ananda continued to ask, what is the benefit and reward of dispassion and revulsion? The Buddha answered, that is the knowledge and visions. That is liberation. It's Nibbana. And the Buddha continued to say, we have so in this way, the Buddha said, the virtuous way of conduct have non-remorse as its benefit and its reward. And non-remorse has gladness as its benefit and reward. This gladness has joy as its benefit and reward. And joy has this serenity as its benefit and reward. Serenity has happiness as its benefit and reward. Happiness has stillness as its benefit and reward. And stillness has knowledge and visions, seeing as they really are, as its benefit and reward. The knowledge and visions, seeing as they really are, has its passion, revulsions as its benefit and reward. This knowledge and vision of the liberation that is nirvana has the knowledge and visions, the passions and dispassions and revulsion has this knowledge and vision to see of these liberations as its benefit and reward. So the Buddha said, it's step by step, gradually leading towards liberations. As you can see from Sila, from living a virtuous life, step by step, it's a gradual training. And it's happened by itself. It's one thing leading to another. And it's non-self. It's going to happen. Just like it's important, the Sila, the virtuous way of conduct, how we live our life, is a foundation for the development of this peaceful mind. And that this peaceful mind is a foundation for the developing of this wisdom. And this wisdom is the freedom, the nirvana, liberations, that is in the chain of these dependence originations, that is we start from avijja. So breaking the chain, that is to develop these visions, these knowledge and visions, that is the wisdom, that is attain nirvana, liberation. So what is virtue? What is this morality? Morality is a mode of mind, of these volitions in our mind that manifest into our bodily actions and speech. So, and this is the whole foundations of the whole Buddhist path of practice. That is, you see, the whole path of practice is the Noble Path, that is Sila, Samadhi, and Panya. Of course, just being a good person is not good enough. So we need to, but this is essential, this is important. Without the Sila, you can't have a peaceful mind. So why sometimes we find that it's difficult, the mind very restless, and they can't settle, and cannot be, they difficult to calm down, because of the Sila. And because of the Sila, when we have to do something good, when we have to live a good life, we feel good. We have the direct benefit, psychological benefit. We feel good about ourselves. We feel light. And we feel that a sense of at ease and at peace. And it's come naturally. So we cultivate this wholesome, skillful way of life. And also the Buddhist way of this morality is not merely just not committing unwholesome deed, but be consciously aware and to restrain our mind from this unwholesome quality of mind, not to allow the mind to go further, be restrained. So this is how we cultivate, develop this a skillful way of living. And we are total responsible for our own bodily actions, our speech. Because in the West, we have some of our supporters they are one of our supporters. She's the social worker, and she told me how the difficulties she has, like helping in the West. And of course, they have lots of like domestic violence and things that happen. And lots of them, they can't see where's the problem coming from, why they have all this problem, and the cause of the suffering. And they said, no matter how hard they try to help them, and they think that you can't help me, it's your fault. You are not good enough. And there is it's a social worker fault, and it's a government fault, it's a society fault. And they never look at themselves. Why? What they're experiencing now, that the problem they're facing, where is this coming from? They don't want to take responsibility. But the Buddhist way of how to live a skillful life, that we are totally responsible for our own bodily actions, our own behavior pattern. We have to be responsible for our own action. So the Buddha said, we are the owner of our karma, heir of our karma. So we have to be responsible for our own well-being. So the Buddha said the wholesome way of life. So what is wholesome, what is unwholesome? So the Buddha never said that, whether it's good or bad. And he never judged. The Buddha said it's wholesome because whatever we do leads us to freedom, for the well-being of ourselves and the well-being of others, and lead us to freedom and happiness. So it's wholesome. So whatever things that we do lead us to suffering, that is unwholesome. So the Buddha said, kusala and akusala. But because of the translation, that becomes like evil or sin or good or bad. But actually, it's not a matter whether it's good or bad. It's not. It's just that the Buddha said, if you do this, this is the result. So if you're living, an unskillful way of life, and this is the result that you suffer. So if you don't want to suffer, there is a way out. There is to live a skillful way of life. Live a wholesome, a wholesome deed. So whatever we do that is wholesome, that is lead us to freedom and happiness, not only beneficial to ourselves and beneficial to others. Have to be beneficial to ourselves and others. So this is wholesome. This is the definition, the criteria of what is meant by wholesome and unwholesome. So whatever we do, so for our own well-being, benefit to ourselves, and the well-being of others, and benefiting others, it is wholesome. It is important. It's a foundation. So we have to have the foundation. Whatever we build, we build a house, we have to have the foundation. We can't build something without a foundation. Just imagine how it is like, without the foundation. So it's important to have. But of course, just being a good person is not good enough, isn't it? You need to have a peaceful mind. But just being a peaceful person is not good enough. So you need to develop the wisdom, the right view, the right understanding. Because the reason why we are being bound, again and again in the samsara, because of our distorted view, the wrong view, because of our delusion. So our delusion, distorted view, have these 5 hindrances as its condition. So living virtuous way of being a virtuous person actually is help to weakening these 5 hindrances. It's just like we want to uproot a tree, a big, huge tree. We can't just uproot the whole tree like that, isn't it? We need to cut, the branches, you know, and slowly bit by bit cut down the trunk, tree trunk. Then only we can uproot the roots, you know. We can't do it. It's a gradual training. It's like the Buddha said, patience is the highest virtue. So we need to be patient. It's step by step. So this whole path of practice is a path of purification. So step by step leading to liberation. So there are 4 kinds of restraint of this whole path of purifications. So we restrain in regards with keeping the precepts. So for lay people, keeping the 5 precepts. So, and all of you familiar with what is the 5 precepts. So of course, like in the West, the most difficult one is the 5th one, because especially in Australia, drinking alcohol is a culture, it's become the culture. So that's why it's one of the very difficult things. So, but some people come and ask, is that it's the difficult part because of when you go out with your friends. So when you're socialized life in our life, you know, and everybody drinking, it's very difficult to say no. Especially this is in Australia, is the culture, becomes a culture. They find it is the most difficult part to say no. Yes, you know, drinking itself actually is not immoral by itself. The action is not immoral by itself, like taking drugs. But by doing that, we break all the other precepts because we confuse the mind. The mind, you know, we cloud the mind become, we don't have the clarity. So we confuse the mind. So we break the rest of the precepts. So they say it's important why we need to keep that. And I find this is very interesting. When I was in Thailand, so when I was living staying at Hasapanna, so we have this every we call it one pram, that is every quarter moon. That so we have that like for the foreigners. So we have that like we have the evening, like we have some chanting, then we have the Dharma discussion. And for the foreigners, they're in English. So all the Thai people will go to the main sala, and usually Ajahn Liam will come to give a Dharma talk in Thai. But because we don't understand Thai, so we all go to the other sala, that is the Sima hall, that give us like the Western monks normally give us the Dharma talk. So we talk about how to, in order to have a peaceful mind. So we have to set no's, you know, to the other things. For example, we have to reduce all these, restrain our senses. And it's very interesting. So we have a long discussions about how, you know, because if you want to have a peaceful mind, then you have to let go, you have to renounce, you know. To go to movie, you know, it's not that you can't go, but restrain, like go less. So because you have to choose whether you want to have a peaceful mind or you want to continue to, you know, to pursue this, you know, the happiness from the senses. And after all this big discussion, and after finish, and someone asked the questions, a German man, I remember, he said, as a lay person, it's difficult, you know, and how, you know, to practice and I go back, you know. And basically his questions are, he go around the bush, but he not directly. Basically, his question is try to ask how to be mindfully indulged in the sensory pleasure. You know, they can't let go. They still want to have that, you know, they want to have a peaceful mind at the same time, and they want to enjoy those senses. They want to indulge in the senses, but you can't. And just how ingrained our attachment towards our senses, isn't it? And even with the big discussion, we really talk about it, you know. At that time, Ajahn Meeti, you know, we had this topic. We really have a big discussion. And towards the end, someone still asks the questions like that. And it's just how ingrained, like we just can't let go. It's so difficult to let go. So that is the second kind of restraint. That is to restrain the senses. Restrain the senses doesn't mean that no seeing, no touching, no hearing, and no tasting. Not. Then we can't cut ourselves up, you know, isn't it? We can't cut ourselves off, you know. we can't, you know, we have to see, we have contact. So it reminds me of one of the suttas, that is the Kundalya suttas. So this Kundalya, one day he went to the Buddha, he asked the Buddha, he said, you know, all these Brahmin and ascetics are all, you know, praise their own thesis, you know, the practice, you know. So I want to know what is your teaching, what you teach. So the Buddha said, oh, my teaching I teach, that is a nibbana, that liberation, you know, the attain nibbana. So Kundalya started to ask a series of questions. Then they asked the Buddha, so what need to be cultivated and established in order to fulfill, you know, to attain this nibbana, to fulfill, in order to attain nibbana? So the Buddha said, that is 7 factors of enlightenment. And he continued to ask, what need to be established and developed and cultivated in order to fulfill these 7 factors of enlightenment? Then the Buddha said, the 4 foundations of mindfulness. And Kundalya started to ask again, continued to ask. He said, what is this, you know, need to be cultivated and established, you know, in order to fulfill these 4 foundations of mindfulness? And the Buddha said, that is the 3 good conducts. That is our bodily, speech, and mind, the 3 good conducts. And he continued to ask, what, you know, need to be cultivated and established in order to fulfill these three good conducts. That means we have a good behavior, you know, the good conducts. Then the Buddha said, sense restraint. Then after that, the Buddha stopped him to ask for the basic. Then as you can see, these all go down to the basic. And a lot of people like to go into the deep stuff, you know. The first thing they want to 7 factors enlightenment already, you know, they will have to start that. And they don't even have the basic, that is not be able to restrain themselves. That is, the Buddha said, the senses. So that is the causes. We have to put in the causes. So, you know, this, because of that, you have this. Because of this, if you want to fulfill A, you have to fulfill B. So if you want to fulfill B, you have to fulfill C. You know, if you want to fulfill C, you have to fulfill D. So if you want to fulfill D, you have to fulfill C. So if you don't fulfill this, you can't. Like, we can't even have a basic, you know, good conduct. And we want to talk about this deep, you know, 4 foundation of mindfulness, talk about 4 foundations. So as you can see, when you can restrain, come from restraint. So, and remind me of Ajahn Chah said that when he was a novice monk, so he used to have lots of lust. So then during one rain retreat, so he made a determination that he's not going to look at any woman during that rains. So he really made that determinations, not looking at any woman. So after the 3 months rain retreats finished, so then he's finished his determinations that not to look at a woman. But the first moment that he looked at a woman, that first time, immediately he was overcome by lust. He said, so as you can see, the Ajahn Chah, he said, you know, he said that to the monks. He said, it's not a matter of not seeing, not, you know, not tasting and not hearing. Actually, he understands that because he tried to control himself not to look, not to see, not to hear. Actually, it's not to restrain the senses. You know, when there is a contact, you know, when the mind and the object, when there is a contact, the feeling arises. And where we need to restrain, that is where we need to put in the effort to restrain ourselves. So restraint actually, we have is not suppressing. A lot of people tend to suppress. Restraint is different from suppressing. Suppressing is without awareness, without the wisdom, and using willpower to push it down. Whatever emotion, like for example, lust come out, you know, we push it down. That is suppressing. So becomes an automatic pilot without knowing, because the mind becomes a habitual pattern. So because when anything that is, you know, contradict with our self-interest that we don't like, we either run away or we push it away, we push it down. Then it becomes our nature, like without, you know, like become an instinct. We just do it, you know, impulsively. Become a habitual pattern and keep doing that without even knowing that we are doing it. So that becomes so ingrained. Then that is not knowing. But the restraint that we are consciously aware that this moment, you are aware that you have this non-reactive awareness, and with the wisdom, with the clear comprehensions, knowing that lust arises. Then this is where we put in the effort. That is the right effort, not to allow that to grow. It's not the object itself is a problem. Isn't it? We can't cut ourselves off. Not to see, not to hear, not to listen. Then those, like Ajahn Chah said, those blind people and those people deaf, they can get enlightened quite easily because they can't see, they can't hear. Isn't it? So then we have to understand where is our problem, where is our problem coming from. So that's why the object of mindfulness become the vehicle of enlightenment, the object of desires. That is, lead us to suffering. That's why it reminds me of one of the Theravada. And it's really struck me when I read this, you know. It's one of these Thera in those are the verses from those enlightened monks. So this enlightened monk, his name is Rajadatta. So he's used to do this Asubha practice, you know, the contemplations of the foulness of the body. So he contemplates this body. So he used to do that. So at one time he was in the Chana ground. He was contemplating a female corpse that is already badly bloated and is quite smelly and is actually like really oozing, is terrible. And he was doing that Asubha practice. And actually, as he was doing this Asubha practice, and that moment he had this last arousing him. And he was really aghast that he had this last arousing him. And he really struck him. Because, you know, you look at this body is so disgusting. How come you have lust arouses? And that, you know, actually that's the moment his enlightenment, his attained enlightenment, because he realized that his problem is not the object itself, is not the woman itself is a problem. You know, actually is the arisings of that lust between the object and the mind that is a problem. So that is where he attained enlightenment. We see that. It's very important that, you know, we have to understand where is the problem coming from. Then we can address. Then we always looking at the wrong thing, looking at the wrong place. Then we think that, you know, this person causes the problem and the places is no good, you know. Then we are not be able to address where is our problem coming from. That is the object and the mind. That is where we need to restrain the senses. That is with wisdom, not with willpower. So when we suppress it, that is with willpower, we push it down, we use willpower. So when we have to restrain the mind, the more we be able to restrain the mind, because that is not with willpower, with wisdom power. Actually, our mind becomes stronger. It's more powerful. Our mind becomes, the mind becomes, we strengthen the mind. The more we be able to restrain, we strengthen our mind. And they said this is the second kind of restraint with regard our senses, restrain our senses. And then the third one is to restrain that there is purifications of livelihood. So how we live our life, how we learn our living, whether we are living a life of integrity, how we, whether we are, earning our living on the expense of others. That is important, how we live our life. Because if we live our life of integrity, live a good life, then you're happy. They say it's important, the profession itself is important. But of course, like I remember many years ago, one monk, he told me, because I was there, and because one lay person came and spoke to him regarding his mom, because his mom is throughout her life she's selling ducks, she slaughtered ducks, she's doing this business, selling ducks. So and this person told the mom, she said her mom said that when she's told the son, he said there's lots of ducks, thousands of ducks, and pecks her, there's lots of kids coming towards her. This is how, because when we do that every day, this is how the mind, this is the last thing, some of the karma like this all is in this life, what we do every day life, and that is more likely to come out. It's like very, very important that we have to cultivate, the wholesome, the habitual mental habitual pattern. Then that is more likely to come out. And I remember some people like to ask the questions like, what type of meditation that shall we do? Like someone, dying for a dying person. And people think that they want to have this last minute, and pull out the meditations, then they be saying, you can't do that. You have to, we really need to practice throughout our life. Prepare for that moment to come. They say it's important to live our livelihood, how we live our life, how we earn our living, whether we live a life of integrity is important. And then the last one, that is the restraint in regards with our requisites, like the things that we use. That is to practice renunciation. So we live simply. We renounce. So we only getting getting things what we need and not what we want. So we simplify our life. Then we're happier, because when we, this is actually it's a great impact. For example, it's reflect the mind. If some people like to accumulate things, that is the reflections of the mind. The mind is cluttered. So when your mind is cluttered, when any unwholesome thoughts, the qualities of the mind arises, you can't see, because you have too many things in the mind. But as our mind becomes less cluttered, when simple things, comes up, we stick up. You know what I mean? Like, for example, if you sweep the path, if just only one leaf, drop, you can see it very clear, stick up. They say it's important. They say it's important. It's a step by step. So Ajahn Brahm used to say, he said, you don't have to tell. He used to say to the monk, he said, you don't have to tell me how good is a meditation. I only see how you do your work, the way you do your work, I know how good is your meditation. It's true, whether you're mindful, you try to finish up your work, and that is show your mind. And sometimes, like for us, we have people come to ask me, like, oh, I still have my, they think that, they're looking for nimitta. They practice meditation to get nimitta. I said, you can never get it. You can't. It's come by itself. The nimitta is the reflections of the mind. Sometimes how we feel, like for example, when the breath becomes very subtle and we feel smooth and at ease. Actually, it's nothing special with the breath. It's just the air in and out, from the nose. But because of as we focus, then the mind becomes calm, and that is the reflection of the mind. You feel calm, you feel really soothing and nice, at ease. Then the breath becomes at ease. It's a reflection of the mind. So they say it's important. This is a gradual training. Of course, if we can't even let go our possession, can we let go our small subtle, our great hatred, delusions, those desires? You can't, isn't it? So they said, why? The Buddha said there is a four. This is a four. The Buddha said there is a four. We have this four foundation stone for this path to enlightenment. There is givings, generosity. That is also one of the very important, one of the foundation stone. And there is Sila and Samadhi and Panya. So this is four foundation stone. But people tend to overlook, because they think that it's small. And because of course, because come from the sense of self, we always think that we're beyond. We need that to support our practice, even giving. Even for monks and nuns, we don't have a material things to give, but we share, we give, we teach. That is a gift of Dharma. We still have to make merits though to support our practice. And it's like for example, in Thailand, like some of the Kuba Ajahn normally said that discourage the monks to read so much. He said that the more you read, you become good at it, and you become very good at arguing. You argue this, the Buddha said that, and he said, very clever to talk. So normally there's some they lock, the library, they lock the books. They're not allowed. They said, if you can't meditate, you work. They can be good thing. So make some merits, and then let wear out some energy. I mean, it's a good way. And actually, working is also a form of meditation. When we work, like everyday activities, when we are aware of our bodily movement, whether we are present or not, whether we are in the present moment of awareness. But talk about present moment of awareness. One of the very interesting things, most of the people who come and ask the questions, they like to ask, what is the next thing? What is next? They always like to move to the next thing. They say, talk about the present moment awareness. I started to feel really peaceful, nice, and in the present. So what am I going to do next? If I feel peaceful, I said, you don't go to next. I said, it's just peaceful. Shall I go to the breath? Or shall I do this? Shall I do that? I said, no, don't go anywhere. Don't try to get anywhere. They want to get to somewhere. I said, you just stay. You allow. Actually, you don't have to look for the breath. When you are peaceful, when you are calm, you just stay present. Actually, the breath comes to look for you. Actually, you don't have to look for the breath. Just let it be. And yes, the breath comes. You allow the breath come. And just keep going, just letting things be. But we don't like to let things be because it's come from the sense of self. The bigger the ego it is, the more controlling we are. We want to even control the breath. Maybe make it yes, it become a control freak, Then we control when we meditate, we control our breath, And then when we stop meditating, we control the people around us. And we try to control the environment. Then basically we just have to control. Because we want the things to make it the way we want it to be. You know, this is come from the sense of self. We don't want to be otherwise. We are not accepting. So that's why actually this letting go. Actually, we use our requisites, you know, we practice renunciations. We live simply. Actually, it's also a way of letting go. From a causal level to a divine level. Because we can't just let go. Can't. No, look, we have to put in the causes and conditions, you know. The mind is a conditioned thing. If we all can let go like that, isn't it? We all got enlightened long ago. We can't get rid of our defilements. So we need to. It's just like, you know, I really liked the simile of the wheel, you know. It's just like our energy, you know, this unwholesome, you know, state of mind, and we can't. It's just like the wheel is spinning. We can't make it. We can't force it stop. Just imagine if a car, you know, travel 120 kilometers per hour, you try to stop it. Can you stop that? You can't. So the wheel is spinning. So even we stop reacting when we start to practice. You know, when we have defilements, for example, if we have anger arises this moment, so we be able to hold, we be able to work with our defilements, not to react, you know, just allowing the anger to be, knowing that this moment that you have this anger, and you are really aware. So then you are not reinforcing your defilements. If we react this moment, then we are reinforcing our defilements. So next time when the anger arises, it becomes stronger. So this time, if you are not reacting, it becomes not so strong, but it's still there. It doesn't mean that your anger is going to go away. But a lot of people want it to go away immediately, but you can't. It doesn't work that way. So that's why we have to keep practicing. You know, keep going and keep going. Persistency and the consistency of keep practicing. So the next time when the anger comes up, it's less intense. Then we don't react, but it's still there, but it's less. It's just like the wheel, you know, it becomes slower. The energy becomes slower. So as it goes slower and slower, we keep practicing, you know. Keep working with our defilements. Whatever desire or greed arises or anger arises, we do not react. There's some people impatient. They say, "Oh, I'm not reacting, but I still have anger." You know, of course it's still there. So, but it's become less and less intense. Then slowly, if it's just like, you know, when we react, we are kicking the wheel. So when we kick the wheel, it's continue to spin and spin, faster and faster. When we stop kicking, it still spin, but it's become slower. So if we keep going until a point that when the wheel, you know, run out of its energy, wear out all the energy, it stops by itself. This is how you don't have to do anything. But the problem is we can't let it go. You know, we can't leave it alone. So letting go means letting things be. Let it be. But we try to interfere. We want it to be otherwise. We try to control. Like whatever emotion come up, you know, like we just try to change it. We can't. Because even the most, you know, wonderful feelings, happy, it's not going to last, isn't it? It's come and go. And the most terrible, you know, feelings that arises, it's not going to stay either. So towards the end of the day, is it better? You know, whether it is, you know, pleasant feelings or unpleasant feelings, anyway, it's not going to stay. You see, it's important that, you know, that this is a way of letting go, how we use. They say lots of people tend to overlook all these small things, you know. The thing that, you know, like how we use our practices, how we live our life, you know, to be frugal, live a simple life. Actually, it's help. It's all. This is a whole part of practice. We can't have only one, you know, the whole part of practice is the Noble Eightfold Path. So we can't have only one factor, isn't it? We have to have the whole thing. We have to pick up the whole thing. So I offer this for your Dharma reflections, the importance of Sila. This is how, step by step. So you have the Sila as a foundation for a peaceful mind. So the peaceful mind is a foundation for developing the wisdom. And this is the wisdom to help us to attain Nibbana, freedom. That is the liberation. So I offer this for your reflection.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
So any questions or comments? No questions and comments? Yes?
It's just a comment. The wheel that you were saying,
Yeah.
the reason why it gradually slows down is because it's the nature of all conditioned things to stop.
Because we are feeding it. Because if you feed it, it's just like our practice. Sometimes we walk 3 steps forward and 2.5 steps backward. You know, sometimes we don't react, but sometimes we react. Sometimes we kick, sometimes we don't kick. You know, and this is we keep, you know, doing that. But still, it's good. If maybe 3 steps forward and 2.5 steps, at least we still have half a step. So yeah, you know, so we just have to keep going. It's like this is the Buddha's teaching of non-self. You know, it's just like the Buddha's mentioned again and again. Like they said, this to cultivate these 37 factors of enlightenment. It's just like the hands, you know, the hands sitting on the eggs. So the hands don't have to sit there and say, oh, may my eggs hatch. Whether you wish it or not, it's going to hatch when you sit long enough. The practice the same. You practice long enough, it's come naturally. But the problem is we always like to interfere. So the more you interfere, the further you are. So this is non-self, the Buddha's teaching of non-self. A lot of people say, oh, the Buddha said it's non-self, empty. So what is this self? Like, how come you said nothing there? The Buddha said it's not nothing there. He said it's not really no one there. It's just that everything is coming and going. They are not solid. So, like for example, like ordinary people, like they haven't started the practice, so they take this self as solid. You know, they have this conceptual self. So as we start to practice, of course we still have the sense of self unless we are Arahant. But our sense of self become more fluid. This is how it's a gradual. So this is how we have to let go of unwholesome, but we still have to hold on to the wholesome. Because it's like the raft. We can't just let go, then we sink. You know, then eventually we have to go beyond even wholesome and unwholesome. That is Nibbana. Because if we do something good, we still reborn. It's in a good place. You know, we're still holding on. But of course, we need to have the wholesome, you know, the happiness to, because the Buddha said developing the wisdom, we need to have the happiness to develop the wisdom. So without without happiness, you can't. So because if we live a wholesome life, then we are happy. So only the happy mind can do it. Without the happy mind, you just imagine if someone's so miserable, you think that they can meditate? They can't, isn't it? So any questions or comments? Yes?
Aya, just now you said, you know, sometimes we meditate, or, you know, we are trying to practice, apply the Dharma in our lives, and maybe we take 3 steps forward and we fall back 2.5 steps, but at least we still gain half a step.
Yeah.
But I think being ordinary person, we would have expectation. So, and if we sort of take steps backward, it can be disappointing and you know, demotivating as well. So, how can we actually motivate ourselves to keep striving, to keep putting in the effort?
Yes, that's very good questions. Actually, that's what the Buddhas teach. A lot of skillful means. That is wise reflections. So we keep turning the mind towards the Dhamma, towards the truth. Always bring that to our mind. So we can reflect, you know, there's the preciousness of this life. Sometimes we tend to take it for granted, how far we have come to. So we always look at it complaining all the time. But just, you know, reflect. How precious is it to be born as a human being? You know, some people don't even know how to spell the Buddha and never heard the Buddha. Now, to be born, like the Buddha said, you know, talk about these 8 places that to reborn that you have no, not be able to practice the Dhamma and listen to Dhamma. So now, being born as a human, to have a relatively a healthy body, and to have the intelligence, to understand the Dhamma. And it's very rare. It's very rare. And amongst that, you know, to be able to listen to the Dhamma, to be born as a human being, and to be able to practice, you know, even rare, very, very few, isn't it? So when you reflect on that, so how far we have come to. So I remember that is one of the Buddha's striving for his enlightenment when he was sitting under the Buddha's the Bodhi tree, and those Mara come to try to, you know, disturb him, distract him. You know, the last part that the Mara uses that, what rights do you have to sit under this Bodhi tree? The Buddha touched the ground. He said, my goodness, the goodness that I have cultivated, you know, allowed me to sit here. That took his goodness to bring me here. All of you the same. Your goodness, you know, what you are now is come from your previous deed that you have done. So not to, you know, underestimate the power of your own goodness. So bring them to inspire yourself. Then you become more appreciative. And it's very precious to have this life. Then you inspire yourself and then you keep practicing again. So this is how, and also reflect on the impermanent. We don't even know next moment whether we are still alive. So you bring that, then you become more appreciative, then less complaining. Sometimes we tend to, you know, find fault, you know. Then this is how we use this, you know, as a skillful means to inspire ourselves, bring to, you know, again and again reflect, keep our mind towards the Dhamma, toward what is truth. So we create a context of right understanding. So with this right understanding, to help us to face, you know, our ups and downs. Of course, when you practice, sometimes it's, you know, they have ups, they have downs. So with this, you know, keep our mind, keep, you know, turning our minds towards the Dhamma. And this is help us. I say to answer your questions, is it helpful to you?
Okay, Ayah. Just now Ayah was saying about locking the sutta so that nobody can ask any question. So can I ask the question on the sutta?
Yes, I may not know all the suttas though. I may not know all the suttas though. If I can answer you, I answer you.
Okay, simple one. Now, just now Ayah was saying restrain the mind and then on the place, and in my understanding is that if we can restrain our mind, then all the place can be perfect. Okay, if I understand correctly. But what about the Mangala Sutta about saying in the right locality? So if every place is perfect, then do we have to choose the right locality?
Yes, good questions. Actually, when you be able to do that, actually is a very advanced practice. That is the third foundations of mindfulness. There's a talk about this. I remember one of our lay visitors say in our monastery. Of course, she read all this Satipatthana. You practice 7 days, you get enlightened. So she is very humble. She gave herself 2 weeks. So she thinks that after 2 weeks, she at least she aimed only for Satipatthana. So she thought that she come and stay in the monastery for 2 weeks. Then they become a Satipatthana. Actually, there is a very advanced practice to be able to aware that is to remain that awareness, that your mind has to be strong enough not to be able to pull in. Because sometimes the defilements is strong. If your mind is not strong enough, we overcame by the defilements. So your mind has to be really strong. So actually, according to the Satipatthanas, is the 4 foundations of mindfulness. Actually, you have to keep your precept well. That is 5 precepts as long as you can. Then, as long as you can, the better, the longer the better. If you are really keeping a pure Sila, and also you have to abandon or temporarily, suppress these 5 hindrances. That is that crowded the mind. You can't see, that is actually Satipatthana. This is a very advanced practice. There's a lot of people think that they can just do it. No, that's why you have to start from the basic. But a lot of people just want to go to the deep stuff. So, and I answer your questions. Any more questions and comments? Okay. No more? Yes?
Sorry, just talking about Hasapanna. Hasapanna is like to overcome the 3 hindrances, right? But they are still confused. The first one that is ego, and the other one I think is number 7. I'm not sure.
No,
that
the 3
ego.
Actually Hasapannas is to abandon the 3 lower factors. That is that you don't have this personality will. You see that it's non-self, but we still have the sense of self. You see the Dhamma, and that you no longer you still have desires, you still have evil, and you have no more. One is what you call it? That is personality will, and that personality will, and have no doubt. You have the complete faith. That is, that's how you see the Dhamma. When you see the Dhamma, then you have the complete confidence in the Dhamma. And the third one is, if no doubt, that is you no longer like clinging to the rights and richer. That is this 3 lower factors. That, of course, you still have. Of course, your great hatred and delusion is still there, but of course, compared to ordinary people, is subtle. So when this once returner, so you still have this greed and hatred, but it's less. Then come to anagami, then you have this ill will and desire is gone. That you have only very subtle sense of self is still there. That's why you're reborn in the fine material world. So that is it. Is there any more questions? Answer your questions?
Yes, but if it's like that means, how do we know that it's a Hasapanna? Like you see, you know yourself, but it's still there. But
whoever, if the person don't know whether they attain Hasapanna or not, then definitely the person is not attaining Hasapanna. Because it's very clear. You know for yourself. If you don't know, that means You're not. and I answer your questions.
Some people may be deluded and think that I know, and then that's why I'm a Hasapanna, for instance. So maybe it's the ego that makes them think that.
That's true. That's why it's important. Like that. I remember when Bhikkhuni used to say, her master said that, if you get enlightened, you better not to tell that you're already enlightened, because you have to prove it for the rest of your life. People will keep asking you, try to catch you out whether you're enlightened. But anyway, if someone enlightened will not really let other people know that they're enlightened, isn't it? You will not tell, isn't it? Like just like one of the Chinese say, 真人不露相, isn't it? Yeah.
Isn't that in Zawada?
Huh? I mean, you don't say it doesn't mean because sometimes like if someone enlightens you, you don't tell I'm enlightened, you just keep quiet,
How about if somebody asks? Somebody asks, are you enlightened?
For example, if someone asks you, is it that you need to?
If somebody asks you, are you enlightened?
So you said that, I mean, you can choose not to answer. Isn't it? I mean, we can choose not to answer. It's for example, we don't have to, answer every question that we ask. If we think that is not appropriate, we can choose not to answer. So is the answer the question? So, any more questions and comments? So,
sorry. Like Sister Barbara just said that what happens is someone thinking that, oh yeah, he's Hasapanna, but then they're actually not.
Yeah, I know, because someone told me that when she was, her friend told her that one of the monk told her friend, oh, you stay a little bit longer, you stay another 45 days, then you become a Hasapanna. So I asked, did your friend stay? She said, no. Yes, it's just like sometimes we have to use our own wisdom, discretion, and we know for ourselves whether we still have anger, we still have, we know, isn't it? Especially if you have that enlightenment, it's very powerful, you know for yourself. For example, you don't have to, like there's one of the sutta, there's the mirror of the Dhamma. Like people keep asking the Buddhas, like that they want to know where the person passed away, where they were born. And the Buddhas keep asking, how about this person, how about that person, until the Buddha said, okay, enough, Ananda, don't ask me, you have to know it for yourself. Isn't it? So whether you know, for example, when you suffer, do you know that you are suffering? Huh? We know, isn't it? We investigate. We don't have to have, you don't have, to have other people come and tell you, oh, actually you are suffering. Isn't it? Then actually we know it for ourselves. They said the Buddha said that, encourage us that, They said the Kalama Suttas. He said, you know it for yourself. After I practice this, what if the results, how I feel, whether this is wholesome, whether this is unwholesome, whether this is bring the happiness. You have the discretion, you know it for yourself. For example, you don't have to have the Buddha and tell her that killing is no good. Isn't it? Even a young kid know. They do, when they have an experiment like for very young children to ask them some questions that what are the things that regarding ethics, what is whether is a good thing to do, and most of them be able to discriminate that is things that is no good, that is unwholesome. They know, even very young kids they know, because we do have that deep inside us. But only sometimes that we just don't want to know. We all have. They said, the Buddha said that, we all have the potential. Each one of us have the potential to get enlightened. We have that. We have the potential. We have the knowing itself. So, any more questions and comments? Going, gone. Thank you.